This is the original pin punisher. I've been bowling all my life. Professional bowling is my passion, and now I'm here to share it with you.
Alright, so we're back to the how to bowl in the patterns. So today we have the 48-foot shark pattern, and this one is pretty flat. It is a 1 to 2, 1 to 1.9, pretty flat. So not a lot of structure in this pattern, which means you're going to have to be pretty accurate. So being that it's 48 feet, it's going to force you to play pretty far away from the gutter. You're going to have to be a little bit closer to the head pin with your break point. And the overall structure of this is you have a little more volume in the middle of the lane than you do on the outsides, and it's going to provide a lot of push when you get on the inside part of the lane. So we'll get into a little more about this pattern. If you want to get a quick start on this pattern or get a really high score out of the gate, what you should do on this pattern in practice is you want to break down anywhere from about 9 to about 12, 13. If you can really beat up that zone, and then at the end of practice move left of it and give yourself a little bit of friction to the right, you will notice that you'll get a lot of higher scores. You have a little more room for forgiveness in case you accidentally throw a little too far right. The ball will pick up a little bit at least. It may, it might be the difference between a 210 and a 2-pin or a strike or a 10-pin. So I've broken the lane down many times that way, and it has been very beneficial for me, and thought I'd let you guys know that. So how to bowl on this pattern. Like I said, you want to burn around second arrow, a little bit left of the second arrow, and then you want to move a substantial amount further to the left. You want to be anywhere from like the third or the fourth arrow to start on this pattern, and you want your break point anywhere from about 12 to about 17 depending on your style. You know, a lower rev rate, obviously your break point's going to be a little further left. A higher rev rate, your break point's going to be a little further to the right. So that's about going to be your starting zone, third and fourth arrow. You're going to keep your shoulders and your hips pretty square to the 3-pin. You are not going to want to open your angles up to the 6-pin. So you want to be, you know, and at times you may feel like you're throwing it at the head pin. So you want to see your ball get pretty far down the lane and then hook a little bit on the back part of the lane into the pocket. You'll notice on this kind of pattern, if you're leaving a lot of 10 pins and 7 pins, your ball's probably going to be hooking pretty late down lane. So it's going to be good to roll the ball forward, end over end, in order to get your desired pin carry. Sometimes a little bit of baby loft over the front part of the lane can help you get your ball to store a little more energy and will produce better pin carry. Those are some things that really have helped me, especially when competing on these patterns. Also, when you start to really get further left, you can bring your break point in just a pinch. So, or else you'll start seeing early friction. You may get that wet dry over under. You miss left and it won't hook enough. You miss right and it hooks too much. So if you start seeing something like that, you can always go, you know, move your break point in, target the face of the 3-pin, and just don't really give it away from the head pin much. So if you stick to that, you should do pretty all right, if not amazing. So I'll get to what kind of balls and surfaces and all that fancy stuff next. The types of cores I used in this were pretty early rolling for the very start, so that's going to put me around about a 248 to 252 kind of RG range. And the flare zone, you can start with anywhere from like an 030 to about an 050. You can be a little bit higher than that if you want, but it all really just depends on what you're going for that. So the lower RGs and higher differentials or medium differentials work really good on symmetrical cores. As far as some asymmetrical cores that I used, those were pretty low RGs into the 2.4 range, and the differential was pretty high. So, but some cores that will work well on this are still a low RG and a little bit lower differential. So those are pretty good too. Now, when you start to hit transition and you really need to get your ball down lane, because on this kind of pattern, your oil in your front part of the lane is going to go away. You can use a little bit higher RG ball. A great ball, like far as numbers goes, is anywhere from like 255 and higher. You can still keep a high differential, or you can go a little lower down to the 30s, but the RG is what's really going to get your ball down lane for you. You know, the high road's really good. That core is, that core is amazing. I know some, just cores with that, with those numbers behind it are just going to be really good. Like the 257, higher than that, and your medium range differential really allows the ball to still start up a little bit in the mid lane, but it's going to produce a smooth down lane reaction for you. So, types of covers I used. I generally stick with solid shell covers until it gets very dry. So if I move to a pearl ball, it's still going to have a little bit of surface, not a whole lot. It's going to be, I mean, not duller than 2000 grit, but usually the pearl and the hybrid balls do come out after I throw my solid shell bowling balls. And sometimes I will keep the solid shells a little on the shiny side if I'm not trying to really burn the lane up. So those were the cores and the surfaces that I used. So, now we're talking about surfaces and drillings. Drillings that will benefit you on this kind of pattern. You could go with, I generally try to stay away from shorter pins. So like 4-inch pin is probably going to be the shortest pin I'm going to throw on this, is because you want your ball to shape down lane. You don't want it to rev up immediately and force you super far left. You want to be able to stay around the 3rd and the 4th arrow and allow your ball to rev up in the mid lane and stay smooth for your down lane reaction. So, some drillings that I like to have are 35 by about like 4.5 on your pin to distance and your vertical axis angle. So, I like that. I do like a little bit longer pins. I'll do like a 5-inch pin, which will shrink the flare down just a little bit, but not to the point where it's going to kill the flare. I still have about the 30s to the 40s, and then in the vertical axis angle line, or the degree, when I really want to get my ball down lane, I'll be in the 50s and the 60s on a vertical axis line. What that does is it keeps the ball stable longer through the front part of the lane and the mid part of the lane, and keeps those oil rings a little bit more parallel with each other instead of really spreading out like that. So those kind of drillings are beneficial. I don't really go under 4. I don't really go above 5.5. So that's the range I like to stay in. Types of surfaces. Contrary to popular belief, you do not need a whole lot of surface on this kind of oil pattern. Only, I mean, if you want to burn a hole in the lane, use that 500 grit, use that 1000 grit. But if you have a pretty new, a fresh 2000, your ball will grip the lane plenty. With today's equipment, from your phase 2s to your alpha cruxes, or any brand's high performance bowling ball, you are going to find that it doesn't need that much help. Because if you hit it with too much surface, you'll run into an over-under ball reaction, and you're going to find it very difficult to get your ball down lane and stay on the right side of the head pin, or you're going to just keep moving further and further and further left, only to find no forgiveness on your down lane reaction. Your ball's not going to get down lane and slide into the 1-3 like you're going to want it to. So surface on this kind of pattern is only going to make you open up your angles when you need to have them closed. Now, it will be good, beneficial if you're playing if you're playing pretty straight. It is going to be helpful to have a little bit of surface, but the further you move left, the less surface you're really going to need. So you don't need to go overkill the surface, but you do need a little bit. You don't really need polish to start, but some people will do it. So those were the cores and those were the drillings and the surfaces that I find to be beneficial on this kind of pattern. If you made it to the end, you're awesome. My videos only get about 5 minutes per watch, so on average. So if you actually made it this far, you're doing good. I hope this is beneficial for you guys in learning to bowl. Obviously, there's a lot of skilled players out here that probably know this information, but I'm a skilled player, and I'm letting you know it as well. So, my way of giving back, I really want to see people grow in the sport and to do better, and anything that I can pass along that's helpful, I will be more than happy to do so. See you guys next time.